Hey, welcome back. Special Easter edition of Inside Corner. So, I am going to try to keep it a little short, as such. Not that folks are celebrating anymore, probably with family at this point. But do just kind of want to wrap up the series the Cubs just finished. Jump into a couple quick little topics. Have some of my beer, and then just move on, because even though I've been spending a lot of time with family, it's been extended, and I haven't had the chance to really spend much time with my own. So we just got back. And we're going to settle in. So tonight we have got Prop from Funk Brewing. It's an Imperial IPA. This is, if this is the one I remember, so I had one of them this past couple days. This is like a super nice juice bomb. 8% ABV, not a whole lot on there. It's a really, like, you can see it, and you can barely see the name because it's written in this like really tall font. Fairly nondescript can, so it doesn't really stand out much. But again, this is one of them I got in my case for my Tavor membership. So as you can already probably see, this one's pouring super hazy, like a typical New England style. Kind of looks like orange juice, just no pulp. But yeah, so I'm going to enjoy this one. And I'm going to try to do a better job of either finishing it as we go, which I doubt will happen because I only want to keep this to maybe 15 minutes, or I'll just enjoy it throughout the rest of the day. And if you are an IPA fan and if you like New England's, this is it. I'm telling you. So Funk Brewing, and I forget where are they out of. I might have to look it up and share it in the notes. It is in Emmaus, Pennsylvania. So there we go. So check it out. I don't know where they deliver to or where they distribute, but it is definitely worth your while. Oh, this is fantastic. It really is. Anyway, so let's run down the Cubs real quick, right? Heading into Sunday. So we kind of look at it really quickly and kind of the way that broke down. So the Friday afternoon game, we felt pretty good about it, right? It was almost, the Cubs almost went 3 consecutive shutouts. They'd had great outings from Hamels and Quintana. Before that, Kyle Hendricks comes out. We're all kind of freaked out about him. We're writing articles. I say we, Cubs Insider, some pieces about, man, what's wrong? The sinker is bad. And it's not just us, right? That was known. He had admitted it, that the sinker was not doing well. And as a result, he was getting tagged. So we're, it's like, man, does he need an opener? Is there somebody who could give him a softer landing? What can be done, until he rounds back into it? Jed Hoyer had admitted, that there were some mechanical flaws, that this happens pretty frequently, and we've seen it. We've seen Hendricks go through these periods before. But he comes out, dotting the sinker. The changeup is working beautifully. I think he got, there's a GIF, and I say it with a hard G, sue me, of the swinging and looking strikes that he got from it. And I think he threw it about 30 times, so he felt really comfortable with it. Looked really good. They cruised to a victory. The following day, basically the exact opposite. Darvish comes out, gets shelled with 2 homers in the first inning. But the thing about Darvish, and here's what's weird, and I've said this the whole time. His previous outing had looked pretty good. He's hitting 99 by the end. Dick shot aside, he did look good. His velocity was up. And this one, he just kind of came out flat, right? He gives up a couple home runs into the teeth of the wind. And we've seen that. We've seen him do that a couple times, right? Really give up some hard contact. And so the home runs that hit, I want to say were like 104 and 111 off the bat, or 105, 111, something like that. I mean, these were mashed. They weren't, they're into like a 20-mile-an-hour wind. And so you get a little concerned with him. He walks the first 2 batters to start the second inning, starting to freak out. So the dude ends up giving up 3 runs. But what's kind of wild is, like, after he walked those 2 guys, it looked like he had really started to settle in, and he starts to roll, and he's only facing 3 and 4 batters, each of the next few innings, and yet to come out for the 6th, Joe Madden lifts him in favor of Allen Webster, which almost felt like punting, and then Webster gives up 6 or not 6 runs, but 3 runs in pretty short order. And Webster's one of those guys who, if you look back on kind of when he was drafted, and Don Mattingly said when they're both with the Dodgers organization, this guy's going to be a star. Clearly he isn't, and but there's still something that the Cubs thought was there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have brought him up. But it doesn't really look like it is. Same with Randy Rosario, who was sent down today, and so Alec Mills is back up. So they've been playing kind of mix and match with that. But the issue that you have, and I apologize if you can hear my daughter yell singing in the background. I think she's kind of going through the what is she singing? "Shallow" from the Star Is Born soundtrack. There we go, Gaga. So in any case, here's the deal, and I think Darvish was at like 85 pitches, right? So we saw him go past the 80 pitch mark in the previous game we just talked about. He was actually at 80 to start that sixth inning when he came out, and then that's when he, again, threw another 16 pitches or so. I think he got to 96 pitches. So this time he's at 85. So he could have gone back out there for that inning, right? And Madden could have kind of judged that. And he had clearly settled into a groove. He's shown that he's strong enough to go deeper into that. And, I really question Madden's handling of Darvish. I do not like, this feels like oil and water to me. I'm not there, right? Obviously. I'm here in my basement. I clearly do not have the right to tell Joe Madden what to do. However, his handling of Darvish, to me this season, has been insanely curious. Maybe not insanely, but just a little bit or a lot. Only let him go 71 pitches, 77 pitches, pulling him after 85. When, at least in a couple of those situations, it looked as if either A, he was getting stronger, like this most recent outing, or B, that at some point, he had reached a point at which you have to let him push through that. You have to. You can't talk about protecting his. This is a guy who's been in the majors for a while, and I think I complained about this on another one, so I won't go in too deep. But you have to let him do that. If you're going to sink or swim, it needs to be with the highly paid free agent. I'm not saying because he's highly paid he should perform. What I'm saying is you went out and spent the money on this guy because he's got the ability, because he can do this, and because he has done it. And so you need to let that guy who you paid to be a starting pitcher be a starting pitcher and fight through some of that adversity, not just in the first or the second inning, but in the fifth and the sixth inning as well. You've got to let that happen. Otherwise, again, you're establishing this learned helplessness, like when you take a baby elephant and you chain it up. And then as that elephant grows, you don't increase the size of the chain because when he becomes an adult, he's so used to the fact that he can't break the chain that he doesn't break it, even though he now could because he's bigger. Things like that. And what I'm worried about is that, Madden puts that chain on Darvish, and when he goes to maybe let it off later in the season, Darvish is not going to be able to fight through that because he was never made to early on. We've seen stuff like that happen. A little bit frustrated. So under that, right, you get shut out. You just have a crappy looking game. Darvish doesn't look good. Now you're going into Sunday with Tyler Chatwood on the bump, right? They had moved it around and put Tyler Chatwood out there. So again, there's some issues. Albert Almora batting leadoff with Ben Zobrist down in the lineup. So listen, I love Almora. Love the attitude. I mean, he's a dude, right? He's a good guy in the clubhouse, great defensive player, but he is hitting so poorly, and he's not an on-base guy. I just don't see why he's up at the top. I don't care that they were facing a lefty. It doesn't make sense to me to put him at the top of the order. Zobrist makes sense up there. Descalso makes sense up there. Almora does not make sense up there. So I didn't really get the feel for what Madden was doing. But here's the deal. It doesn't matter if Tyler Chatwood goes out there and throws, 6 innings of 2-hit baseball with only 2 walks? I mean, that was probably the best he's looked as a Cub. And what's wild is, there was a total sense of, oh, God, because he missed so badly with his first 4 pitches, right? Walked a leadoff hitter, and everybody felt like it was going to go off the rails. And then all of a sudden it's like, induce a double play, get a ground out, boom, out of the inning, and now we're rolling. And so that just kind of goes to show you, again, and this is not comparable to Darvish, right? But there was a thought, and I guarantee I wasn't the only one that had it, was like, oh no, here it comes. Like, go get him now before it gets crazy. Like what you feel with Carl Edwards Jr. when he goes out and throws a couple balls, you're like, just pull him now because it's done. And Chatwood settled in immediately. He got through that. He looked significantly better. He got good life on his pitches, got the ground balls they needed, and kept the Cubs in the game. And they he would have gotten the win, and they would have been done with it had they not gone to the extras. And then, of course, who comes through but David "Every Bote in," who then, in the post game is like, hey, cool, I'd like to stick around, but by the way, they're inducing my wife, who's going to have our 3rd child, and so I'm flying back home to Colorado. So, which, curiously enough is really close. If you think August 12th, the math doesn't really work. It's fun, and I wanted it to, when I knew his wife was due very soon. But if you look at his Grand Slam on August 12th of last year, then you kind of push forward. We're at like 8 months and a week. It's like 30, just over 36 weeks. So, again, typically about 40 weeks. 37 and after is considered full term, just to make sure I get that out there. But I don't think it's a Grand Slam baby, even if it's entirely possible that they did the sex that night. However, I would venture to guess that within the next week to 3 weeks, there will be a lot of Bote Grand Slam babies, perhaps by immaculate conception, because I almost got pregnant from watching it. And so I'm assuming some others out there may have. I think there's actually a commercial, and this is what's weird. It's like for Brute aftershave, right? Where like the guy, slaps it on, and then all of a sudden, like his wife comes out. His wife had walked in the bathroom. She comes out. She's like full-term pregnancy, and the dog comes out and is pregnant, and the fish in the fish tank is pregnant. Because he's so manly and virile from the Brute aftershave that he made everyone pregnant around him, which is a really dumb commercial, but that's kind of what I feel like Bote's Grand Slam did. So perhaps it was a Grand Slam baby, but actually the force of that Grand Slam, like, just pushed forward the baby's term. I don't know. Now it's just getting weird. But you got to feel really good about where the Cubs are at, right? Sunday was looked at like a punt game, and they certainly didn't do a whole lot to win it. They did just enough, very clearly. And it could have gone the other way, right? You give up that late run, you're leading 1-0. You give up that late run to tie the game. There's a sense there that momentum can kind of shift, and that things are a lot different, because you come in and you win Friday, but then lose twice, one of them late in the game, and there's kind of that sinking feeling there to it. But you turn that around, and all of a sudden now you've won 2 out of 3 right after the previous little streak that they were on, and you're back in there. You're only 2.5 games out of first, right? So that always helps. You're at 500. That's good. And so, you just have the teams at the top. Like right now, Milwaukee's in third. Milwaukee's only, a game and a half ahead of them. And St. Louis is right in there. So I think St. Louis and Milwaukee are tied, but St. Louis has the virtual lead by merit of in the win column, I believe. And then Pittsburgh is in first, which, I mean, who knows? Maybe that stays. Maybe they keep throwing at people and eventually knocking players out. But I guess what we're getting at is, you feel a lot better about where the Cubs are at right now. And that's really what makes sense. And the fact that they should get John Lester back, right? He threw a sim game on Monday. Not on Monday, on Saturday. And they have the off day Monday. They've already got Quintana and Hamels set up to take the first 2 games against the Dodgers. So it's very conceivable Lester could be back by Thursday, because let's count on our fingers. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 5th day on Thursday. It depends on how he bounces back, right? How does he feel? And really, with the hamstring, I think they were being extra cautious, because they have, in its infinite wisdom, MLB scheduled them for like half the time. They've had like 15 days off since the season started, and now they're going to be, at some point, I think they play 34 games in 35 days because of the rescheduled Angels game, which really sucks. But they were able to take it really easy with Lester, because they didn't need a 5th starter. And then, lo and behold, here comes Tyler Chatwood and twirls a gem and allows him to kind of push those things even further and really make some sense of it. So they don't have to bring Lester back on Thursday, but that makes a lot of sense for him to make that start, as long as the hammy feels good coming out of it, which would be the opposite of Brandon Morrow, who we heard about same time. So just right after John Lester throws a sim game, we hear, oh, hey, by the way, Morrow's being shut down, or he's been shut down for a time, because he didn't bounce back very well from a mound session, which is just wonderful news. And it shouldn't be surprising. I mean, it sucks. It's disappointing, but it's not really surprising because of his injury history. And we had heard Jed Hoyer allude to that and talk about how careful they were taking it with him. So, we can take that one of two ways, right? We can look at it and say, he didn't bounce back well. He's being shut down. Oh God, this is horrible. You need to go get help now, which probably should do anyway. Because really that bullpen is just going to be this musical chairs, and I don't want to say deck chairs on the Titanic, because it's not that bad. The ship is not sinking. but it doesn't feel like there's anyone who's really going to take hold of that role. This is Dylan Maples, who had a nice outing the other day, but we'll not get our hopes up there. But on one hand, with Morrow, again, we could say, woe is the Cubs, woe are the Cubs, woe is us, woe are we, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like Keanu Reeves. I'll be back. Or we could look at it and say, hey, they're being so super conservative with this guy that, if he looks at him and says, man, that felt just a little bit weird, then they're like rushing in with the EMTs and having the whole gamut of tests run on him just to make sure, and that this is simply an exercise in due caution, which by all means they should be taking. But you have to think, okay, if he's being shut down, right, that doesn't mean we're slowing, we're pulling up on the reins a little bit and slowing it. Like, he's not throwing. And so anytime you do that, especially with a rehab situation, you're taking that timeline and you're resetting it or shifting it off. And, initially they were talking first month of the season. So you're thinking, okay, maybe late April, but probably like early May. And so now we push that back, a week, 2 weeks at the very least. So now you're thinking, well, maybe mid-May if things go well. Thankfully they've been able to kind of keep things together, and if the offense can keep scoring runs, if the starting pitching, and that's going to be the key, the starting pitching needs to continue, if Darvish should be allowed, to go deep into games to mitigate the need to kind of bring in your Alec Mills, your Alan Webster, your Kyle Ryans, your Tim Collins, guys like that, because that's just going to lessen the efficacy overall of the bullpen. Unless one of those guys really steps up. And so the more you shorten that back end, the better your chances are, the better you can afford to have Morrow out. But if somebody like Craig Kimbrell is really back down to like 3 years, $50 million, so you're looking at about $16 million a year, somewhere in that neighborhood, versus the, 5 years, $100 million that he wanted. That's a significant, literally he's cut that ask in half, at least according to Ken Rosenthal. And so, now you're not looking at the situation of committing all these dollars to a closer down the road. And that's something that helps out significantly, because I think, it's impossible to look at anything and bank on Morrow being there at all. And then how comfortable is he going to be? Will he be able to cut it loose 100%? We don't know that. So, again, those are just some things we have to weigh. So I think, we're going to take it with the positive. Certainly, there are some negatives about it. There are some things that you're concerned with the pitching staff. It's not fun to go out there and get shut out and, like to score, 2-3 runs or whatever and over any 2-game stretch. Even if the results are good, there are some underlying things that we could point to. But why the hell would we do that? We get to eat meatloaf tonight, right? I actually got to eat smoked sausage and mac and cheese that was made with almond milk because our regular milk wasn't around, and it was really nasty. So I couldn't even eat mac and cheese. Can you believe that? But the smoked sausage was good. Got to watch Shazam earlier, which was okay for a DC effort. Wasn't bad. So yeah, we could get into that stuff, but we're not going to. I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to cut this off really, really quickly. So got the Dodgers coming into town starting Tuesday. I might even do a preview of that or kind of look at some things. We'll probably follow back up with that one after there. So, check us out again as I keep bringing this up. So this is Inside Corner. This is my YouTube show that I've been doing. We got a few episodes out. I've got the Deep Like Leviathan podcast that I work on. Interviewed Purdue coach Matt Painter, who's a big Cubs fan. So that one's out there. You can find that on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Podcasts. And we've got Talking Cubs. We've got the Ivy Envy podcast, the Cubs related podcast. These are all things that are on our YouTube channel. So assuming you were watching this on there, because I don't know how else you could watch it, I guess you kind of have to, just right down in that area right there, just mash that subscribe button if you don't already. We've got a bunch of other videos that are up there. And then, so this shirt, I believe, I'll close with this. I think this is the shirt that got us shut down on our previous t-shirt vendor, that they saw this. I think it's the Cubs. That's what I assume. Someone from there. Maybe not. Maybe it's a really rabid fan who wants to protect the Cubs' interests and went on and kind of saw what was up with that and saw our website and looked at it and reported a copyright infringement or a personal rights infringement. And so these are no longer in print. These got taken down, but they're pretty cool, I think. because I wore one at Cubs convention, and then a few days later it was shut down. We did actually I got a notice today from our current vendor, so we had to switch because our old vendor literally took everything down, all of our designs, even if it had and I even argued with them that certain things were not personal rights infringements, and they never got back to me on it, so they basically just shut it down. So our current vendor, I got a notice that one of them had come down because the shirt said Cubs, but the C was a cent sign, and it was UB, and the S was a dollar sign, and then I think I said something about we would have tried to get a copyright or something, but we didn't have any more money, which is kind of a playoff of what Tom Rick had said. So I kind of did it as a goof. Like, somebody bought one, somebody who I know bought one, and again, total goof, right? But got slapped with a copyright on that one. So I don't know who was looking at what, but I just thought that was kind of funny. I got that email, and kind of playing off the name, which I think is like super petty, and I think it's a little weird that the Cubs have really shut down so many people with that stuff. And I get it, right? I mean, I understand some of those things, but it feels a little bit like MLB cracking down on people like sharing content from games, right? And putting that stuff out there to where it's like, okay, I'm not really hurting your product. Like, I'm providing something that you never would. And so, yes, I guess I'm profiting, I made a couple dollars off of your name. I get it. I don't think it's hurting them, but whatever. That's their right, and they have every right to do that, and I absolutely understand why that was up there. I'm not even going to bother fighting it. But I do think it's funny that they're out there, taking the effort to search that stuff out. So anyway, Serenity. So I'm just going to go watch a movie with my wife or something. Hopefully, you all had a great Easter. I don't know if any of your fathers plucked a bat down from their porch and showed it to the kids in attendance, as mine did. That was like the talk of the entire time. So my 2-year-old niece kept walking around the rest of the time saying, bat, bite, bat, bite, pop, pop, bat, bite, pop, pop. Because he had leather gloves on. The bat was just latched on. I got the pictures on Twitter and put them on Facebook. So if you follow me there, you can check those out if you haven't already. So anyway, I'll say goodbye for the 4th time. I'm Evan Altman. This is Inside Corner. Thanks for joining me again. Cheers.